Hi, everyone, and welcome to our very first, for Plottr at least, plot on the spot. I hope you guys have some ideas ready because this is going to be a great time. We're also going to have a lot of fun, which is kind of the whole idea. What we're essentially going to do, first of all, let me introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Troy Lambert. I'm the education lead for Plottr. I'm a mystery and thriller author of over 30 novels, a bunch of works of nonfiction as well. I'm an editor, I'm a book coach, I'm the president of Idaho Writers Guild, and I've been a speaker at all kinds of conferences, all kinds of different places. And I've done these events a few times live at conferences, and it's a really good time. And basically, the way it is going to work is this. We're going to do a brief introduction, and I'm going to basically do what I'm doing now, explain who I am, explain how this is going to work. We're going to gather some big ideas from you guys. So I want you to have them ready in the comments. If you have an idea for a novel or a story that we can plot, I want you to drop those in the comments as soon as we start that part of the process. Once you do that, then we're going to we're going to pick the idea that we're going to use. We're going to gather some small ideas. We're going to put those together in Plottr as well. And then we're going to put them in some kind of order, and hopefully an order that makes sense for the story. Now, to do that, we're going to use a template to determine pacing, just like we would do with any other plot that we're creating. As we go along, we're going to add characters and settings, and then bam, we're going to have a plot. And we're going to have a plot just that quickly. Okay, so if everybody is ready for us, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch over, and I'm going to switch over to Plottr, and we're going to start in the timeline view. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to change some things right away. So I'm going to go up to the structure button, and I'm going to change this to beats, or actually, you know what, I'm going to change it to a scene. Okay, that's what we're going to call not our ideas today. Now we're going to start with a main plot, but we're going to also start with big ideas. This is for the novel, for the overall novel idea, and we'll rename some things as we go. And this is going to be somewhere where we put small ideas, and we're going to make ourselves a whole bunch of room out here, and just to add a whole bunch of scenes so we have lots of room to play with. We're going to move this main plot down here, and we're going to add a subplot that we can work with later. Okay, everybody ready for that? And hi, everybody. You guys are here from all kinds of places, Maryland, Indianapolis, Texas, all over the place. It is fantastic to see all of you. Okay, so if everyone is ready, let's go ahead and get started. What I want from you right now is big ideas of a story, an idea big enough that we could make it into a novel. Now, I'm going to start typing a few of these into our timeline for our big ideas. And what I want to see is if we can find an idea that will actually work for this story that we're going to plot. We're going to race through this initial part of the process because we're going to do this in 90 minutes. So go ahead and hit me with those big ideas. Any idea you have for a novel. And hello to everyone from checking in. You find out your brother-in-law is human trafficking. Oh my goodness, we're starting with something dark right away. Okay, so we'll call that the human trafficking idea. Okay. Idea. Okay. How about another idea from someone? But someone invents a way to travel instantaneously, like in the game Portal. Instant travel. Instant travel. Awesome. Okay, let's try that one. We'll add that one. Instant travel like a gaming portal. Now you'll forgive, there's going to be a few typos probably because I'm typing fast as we go through this. Okay, that's awesome. That's another awesome idea. Okay, anybody else got an idea? Instant travel is great. You steal a car and find a body in the trunk. I kind of like that one. Stolen in car with a body in the trunk. That's a good idea. That would make a fun mystery. Zombie apocalypse. Oh, I'm a cadaver dog and I just found my previous owner dead. Ooh, from the dog's point of view. A dog, oops, finds owner, ooh, owner dead. Okay. All right, let's take maybe one or two more. Okay, one or two more. Zombie apocalypse, dreams that predict the future. Hey, zombie. Oh, good grief. Okay. And whoops, predicting the future. Dreams predict the future. Okay, beautiful. All right, we got a bunch of ideas. Any other ones? My little brother's mind is possessed by an entity. Okay, and we'll stop with that one for big ideas. Got some horror going on here. All right, so let's take a quick poll of who likes what idea. Oh, I actually like this one too. Drunk finds body in park and steals identity. I'm going to add that one really quick. Steals identity. Awesome. Okay. Okay. We'll stop with that one. Okay. So somebody likes the dog. Okay. Go ahead and give me some of your votes over in the comments. Let me know which one of these ideas you like the best. And we'll start and then we'll figure some things out. Vote by the C number. That's very good. Vote by the C number. So we have 8 different choices here. 3, 4, 8, 8, 3, 8 and 3 are in a lead. 8, 8, 8 is getting a lot of votes. 6 is getting some votes. 2, 3, and 8. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to say that 8 so far is in the lead. So that's more than likely this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 8. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to argue with me about that. Oh, 8's still in the lead. 3 has pretty strong showing as well. So let's narrow it down to those two, 3 or 8. 3 or 8, and let's narrow it down between those. 3 3s. We got 3 3s and 8s. Can we combine 8 and 3? Oh my goodness, can we do that? Let's see. Maybe we can. Sure, why not? Who's voting for 8 and 3 combined? That sounds like a combine. All right, let's do it. Let's combine it. All right, so that's going to be our big idea. So what we can do now is we can basically eliminate these other ideas. Okay, now there's a couple ways we can do that. We can delete individual scene cards. That's going to take some time. Right now, we're just going to come through and we're going to delete these so we move everything up to where we want it to be. Okay, going to be really easy here. And then we're going to leave our 2 big ideas right up here. These are the ones that we're going to combine. Okay, we're going to combine those into a plot. Now, what genre is this? Let's talk about genre really quick. What genre is this going to be? It seems like kind of a thriller. Does everybody agree that's kind of a thriller? Maybe a mystery thriller, a little bit of a combination. Any other ideas on plot, though? Because it could be a number of things, and we can go almost any direction with it. Because we haven't really settled on anything yet. Mystery thriller, thriller graphic novel. Thriller graphic novel would be really interesting as well. Although the plotting would be much the same for a graphic novel. Okay, thriller seems to be getting lots of votes. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this, and we're going to open our plot on the spot. We're going to rename this because we're going to talk about what genre this is going to be. Now, what are some possible titles for our plot we're going to do here? A humorous mystery? It could be a humorous mystery. That is not a bad vote. Mystery thriller sounds fun as well. All right, you guys are good on that. So mystery and thriller. We'll call it a mystery thriller. And the title, Whiskey, that's not a bad title. That's not a bad title. Other title ideas? Ooh, sci-fi thriller, we could do that too. That would be kind of fun. Mistaken identity. Okay. The body I wasn't. That is interesting. Okay, let me do this. Let me put a few titles up here. Let's go back to the timeline, and we'll put a few titles up here. So we'll put Whiskey, Body I Wasn't. Okay. Drunk Action. Born Again. That's right. Born Again. Jacked. Born Again. Jacked and Drunken Identity. Jacked. Okay. And let's vote by scene number again. Okay. Now somebody couldn't read the scene number, the scene titles last time. So let's say scene 3 is Whiskey. Number 4 is The Body I Wasn't. Number 5 is Born Again. Number 6 is Jacked. Number 7 is Drunken Identity. Ooh, I kind of like, so 4, The Body I Wasn't. 6, okay, Jacked. It'd work if we said in the 70s. We're going to talk about the setting here in a minute. 4 and 4. 4 has got a lot of votes. Number 4. All right. For the sake of time, what we're going to do is we're going to go with number 4. Okay. We're going to go with number 4. We're going to call it The Body I Wasn't. Okay. So let's go back to our project. We'll rename this. Whoops. We'll rename this The Body I Wasn't. That's a good title. We're going to say this is a mystery thriller for the moment. We might add some sci-fi elements. We'll see what happens. So let's go through here. We'll delete these other titles because we're not going to need them. And we'll start to add some other stuff in here. Okay, now what we want to do, we've got our big idea. We've got our title, right? We have our genre. So now we're going to start gathering some small ideas. Now, let me explain what I mean by small ideas is things that could happen in this story. Okay, so anything that could happen in this story. Obviously, the first thing is going to be, because of the title, that a drunk is going to find a body, right? Um, or maybe the drunk is going to, let's combine this and let's change it. The drunk is going to steal a car and finds a body. a body in the trunk and then steals the identity of that body. Okay, so now we can delete this one as well. So that's our big idea. That's kind of our premise, okay, of our story. And what's going to be the theme? What's going to kind of be the tone of it? The person who steals the car dumps the body and the drunk finds it. That is the first thing. Yes. So the person steals the car, ditches it and the body. Okay. We're not going to add much more than that at this point. For the small ideas, we're just going to add quick sentences. Quick sentences. And gritty noir is kind of that's a good one as well. Here, let me switch this view. Is that a little bit bigger for you guys? So you can see that? Okay, so we've got this idea: the person who steals the car dumps the body and the drunk finds it. Okay, now what happens next? What are some of the small ideas that can happen next in the story? So first, we could almost have the ordinary world and show the drunk getting drunk. So that could be part of the story as well. So we could show what his ordinary world looks like, right? We could kind of do that. Okay, the drunk doesn't recognize the stolen ID until he sobers up. Okay, that's interesting. Let's put that in there. Drunk recognize the ID until sober. Okay, that's good. He dumps the body. That's good. The body turns out to be a zombie. Somebody's really pushing for this zombie apocalypse here. Um, the dead person is somebody important. Someone witnesses the theft. Okay. One witnesses the theft. Let's just give us a bunch of room here. The person is important. So he recognizes that the person is important. That's a good one too. Drunk goes to the person's home, and the drunk is an ex-con. Okay. We're going to stack some of these. Goes to the person's, so we don't run out of room. Home. So the drunk is an ex-con. So we're focused a lot on the drunk right now. So what is our drunk guy's name going to be? Quick ideas for a name. Oh, and I like this. Goes to the hotel room, dead person's hotel room, and discovers a briefcase full of money. That's good. Albert. Albert is a good one. Albert Croft, somebody says. Jasper. Lucas. Let's just do this. Let's put Lucas, and we'll put, because these can be names of other people in the book as well. So we'll just gather some names and we'll start to assign these as we go. Okay. Ricky, Al, Harry. Love this. You guys are coming up with great ideas. Ricky, Al. I don't think we can use Charlie Sheen. I think that one's taken. But, we could add that in here. Alfred, Abe. Awesome. All right. All right. We've got a bunch of names. We're going to save those names of those characters. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the timeline, and I'll keep picking up. I see a bunch of you have put ideas in the chat here. So, what if he's a disgraced son of a wealthy family that has disowned him, and he's trying to find a way back into that lifestyle? That's interesting. So let's call him that disgraced son of a wealthy family. A wealthy family who wants back in. Awesome. I like that one. All right. Let's see here. We had some other ones up here real quick. Let me go back to these really quick. Goes to a hotel of the dead person's hotel room, discovers a briefcase full of money. So we'll just say discovers briefcase full of money. Full of money. Okay. All right. Awesome. That's a good idea as well. Finds evidence of violence at the person's home. That's a good idea. Evidence of violence. Goes back to find the body, and it is gone. Now you notice with some of these ideas, they're kind of conflicting ideas, so we're going to have to decide between a couple of them, and we're going to kind of have to do it quickly, right? The killer accept him as a dead person to hide the crime. That's interesting. You must find the body and deal with it, or he can't use the ID. Now that creates another element of mystery to it, and I'd like the fact that maybe the killer accepts him. Killer lets him take the place of the murdered. You guys are coming up with some great ideas here. Now in a minute, we're going to start to refine these ideas down just a little bit. The person's home is an ex-officer. Oh man, the person's ex-officer. Find the body or can't deal with the ID. That's interesting too. Let's just say we're going to say the murdered is an ex-cop. Now that one would probably change the tone of a lot of these other ideas, right? If we had an ex-officer, it'd be harder to do that. Let's see. Drunk and car thief meet each other while both going back to where the body was dumped. So he meets the car thief. That'd be an interesting twist as well. We're going to say meets the car thief. Okay. All right. The person is a serial killer. Okay. That's interesting as well. Maybe the murdered person is a serial killer. Okay, so let's start to shape up a better idea of our plot here and what it's actually going to look like. And then we'll start putting ideas in order and we'll start gathering some more ideas. Okay, so let's go and start and add a template. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this really simple. Now, depending upon the type of story that you're telling, you could add any number of templates. Now, since we're using a mystery and thriller, what we're going to do is we're going to add a really simple mystery template. Okay, so we're going to add the 12-step mystery formula as our template down here at the bottom. And we're going to start to see what ideas are going to fit with what part of the story. And let me change the color of this. We've got all these things down here, so it changes to a funny color. All right, so first of all, we're going to disclose the mystery, right? So we've got the drunk guy, and we're going to disclose the mystery, perhaps. Okay? Does everybody like the idea of using the 12-step mystery formula? Because we got kind of a mystery thriller going on here. Any objections to that particular formula? Okay, don't see any. So what we need now is we need a detective, right? We need a detective. So who is going to be our detective? We developed all these characters over here. So let's go to the characters and let's start to categorize them. Let's say Lucas, we're going to call him, we're going to edit this and we're going to call him one of the main characters. And while we're at it, we're going to change our categories a little bit. So we're going to change to the detective. And then maybe we're going to add some victims. Okay. And some suspects. And we've got some people that we can add as suspects. So let's just do this for the sake of time. We'll kind of go in alphabetical order, and we're going to add Abe as our detective because he's the next guy that we need, right, in our story. Okay, but he's a bent detective. Oh, if the drunk is the detective, oh my goodness. Okay, that would make it interesting if the drunk is the detective at the same time. So maybe he is a drunk detective. So let's just change this. Let's go back to our drunk guy. And I like that idea. We're going to change him to being a detective. So now that does change the dynamic because what's he going to do? So maybe the Abe guy, maybe this is going to be, maybe we'll call him a suspect, or maybe that's our victim. We'll call that our victim. Okay, so the detective comes across this crime and he has to solve it. Okay, that sound good to everybody? All right. So let's come into our timeline here. So now if the detective, we disclose the mystery by the couple of things that we can move down to the main plot. Okay. We can move that we show the drunk getting drunk. That's his ordinary world, right? And then he discovers the car, right? So he discovers the car with the body in it. So let's see. So we'll change this scene just a little bit. Okay. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's add a second scene in here. So we can add a scene to the ordinary world. So instead of steals the car, the detective now finds the car. And now we can start to tag character. Okay, so we can tag our character. Lucas is the detective that finds the car. Now that comes down to an interesting thing when we start looking at these scenes, we need a setting. Okay, so where is this going to happen? What city is this going to take place in? Is it going to take place in a small town or a large city? Ooh, and I like this. What if the deceased is the disowned son? And he can take his ID to investigate his death. So let's go to our character and change that. Let's make Abe the victim. This is disowned son. Detective takes ID to solve crime. That's a great idea. All right, let's do that. So we can go back to our timeline and we can start moving some other stuff around. But first, let's talk about where is this going to happen? Where does this happen? Is it a small town, big city, large city? But the cop is from a small town. The detective should be drunk. So interesting. All right. Idaho, Bethlehem, Boise, Chicago. Chicago's an interesting choice. I like Chicago. Chicago's a good setting for a large town, and it'd be a large town if it's interesting if it happens in Chicago, but the detective is from a small town in Idaho. Oops. Scene of crime. Okay. So there are some places in Chicago that could also be a possibility. So let's say he finds the body in Lincoln Park. Okay. So that gives us some ideas here. He finds the body in, let's say, Lincoln Park in Chicago. Okay, finds the car and ditches it and the body, but we're going to add that we set him on the path because he steals the identity. Okay, so where do we have that? We'll change that. Steals identity to solve crime. Okay, so we're kind of on the path to a story, aren't we? Lower Wacker Drive, yeah, that's futuristic Chicago. We could do that as well. Philly, Houston, Dallas are all good settings, and you could change this setting to anything that you know. Um, and like Lower Wacker Drive would be a great thing to have something happen in Chicago, you know, futuristic Chicago Blade Runner type thing. We could do that as well. Okay. Um, so really interesting. Okay. And oh, I like this. If not disowned, return from being lost for many years, therefore harder to recognize. That's interesting as well. Yeah, that's long lost versus disowned. Yeah, that's interesting. Use the identity, but right, drunk, and now that he's sober, needs to hide that. That's possible, but that would complicate our plot quite a bit, right? So now we're going to change this. The drunk is is a. Why don't we make him a private detective ex-cop instead of ex-con? So that way we can keep that idea. We'll keep that up here. Now, it would be interesting if it turns out that the murdered person is a serial killer. So we'll move that under the facts about the suspects. Now, I don't know if we're going to use that yet or not, but it might be an interesting idea. So the drunk goes to the person's home. That would kind of go under here, right? Now, this part could also move under he doesn't recognize the identity until sober, and so then he steals the identity to solve the crime. That kind of works, right? You see how we're trying to move the stuff around, right? To try to get ourselves an actual story. Oh yeah, easier for the detective to infiltrate the family if he's unrecognized. Maybe depend. The family might be hard to integrate, but other places might be easy. Might be easy for him, right? Okay, so let's scroll up here and we'll look at our main plot. We'll try to do this so you can see the 12-step mystery formula and the main plot at the same time, right? We've got some space here for a subplot, but we haven't decided what that is yet. Now, the murdered person being a serial killer would be interesting, and it would also be interesting for the detective, who's a private detective, to discover a suitcase of money. Because what this is going to do is this produces conflict, right? Does he keep the money or give it back? If he's a poor private detective who's drunk, he might need the money. So what is he going to do with it? So that creates an interesting thing we can do as well. Now, we need some other suspects. Now, this is a disowned person, right? And his family doesn't know who he is. Is it possible that his family could be part of the suspects? So maybe we could start to develop a suspect pool here of maybe Albert. And let's create a new category for them. Let's call them, well, we're just going to call them suspects, even though they're members of the family. This is deceased brother. Now, we've got a lot of guys in this story, so we probably need to add a sister or something as well, right? So we can add Casper. This is maybe the victim's uncle. And let's say we'll add someone named Victoria, who is going to be a suspect as well, and the victim aunt. Okay, now here's the next question for you. Ooh, paternal twin brother. Ooh, that is a great idea as well. I love this idea of adding a paternal twin brother. But now the question is, who is the killer? Let's talk about who the killer is. And Victoria is married to, ooh, I like married to Casper. And this is paternal twin. All right, cool. Everybody like that? Victoria is, oh, he takes his ID and then shows back up, and the family's surprised, but some of them are more surprised than the reasonable. The family is almost the entire suspect pool. I would agree with that as well. I like that Victoria's Casper's much younger wife who's interested in the sobered up drunk detective. That would add some tension as well. Victoria likes the detective. That is pretty awesome. Okay. Maybe the matriarch is important to the city and has her fingers in all kinds of political stuff. Could be the mother protecting the family's name. Okay, so let's do a little bit of voting again. Let's go back to the timeline. We'll go back up to the top. And so we're going to go for who the killer is. So we're going to say mother, which we're going to create the mother in a second, the aunt, the uncle, brother, or someone. Well, let's just leave it at those. So number 2 is mother, number 3 is aunt, number 4 is uncle, and number 5 is brother. Okay, so let's vote and see who is going to be the killer. Somebody suggested the mother, sister trying to unite deceased with family. That's interesting. Okay, whoever would lose the inheritance of the victim. Yeah, if the dead guy was a serial killer, then his killer could be either someone getting revenge or a killer partner taking over. That's interesting. Okay, so we've got some threes, a couple twos, and a 5. Let's do a tiebreaker. Maybe a butler did it, and which is why she's so attracted to the detective. That's interesting. That's an interesting take on it as well. So that's number 3. It could be a stepmother. We haven't introduced a stepmother, but we could. There's a couple votes for 3, a couple votes for 5. Maybe. So let's kind of do like we did with the title. Let's do the aunt and the brother. So the aunt and the brother are a team. They're combined. It is turning into a game of Clue. Next thing we know, we'll be asking you which weapon. So let's say that the killers are the aunt and the brother. Okay, so we're going to say the aunt, and we're going to change her from a suspect, and we'll create a category for the actual killers. Okay. All right. Victoria is going to be a killer, and the brother is going to be a killer. And we can add these others. Harry is prince and distant cousin, maybe married to someone named Megan. I don't know. We'll make that up as we go along. Okay. So there might be an ex-wife. That is true. We could have an ex-wife, and that would make an interesting suspect. So let's just add an ex-wife. We'll just call her Sally for ease, and we'll say this is an ex-wife, and we'll call her one of the prime suspects because the police and the detective are always going to be believing that the partner is the prime suspect, right? Okay. Okay. This is fun. Yes, it is fun. All right, cool. So now we know who the killer is going to be. So let's go back over our timeline and let's kind of work backwards a little bit. okay, and generate some ideas for that. Because down here at the end, we know that the climax is going to be, because of the way the 12 act structure works, the climax is going to be when there's a final confrontation and the person gets caught. So, what would the potential confrontation between Lucas, our detective, and the aunt and uncle look like? What is a potential conflict that would happen there? And what could that potentially look like? So somebody shoot me some ideas. Oh yeah, Aunt, which is why she's so attracted to detective. She knows because she knows he's lying. That is a that is a great one. That is pretty awesome. So the aunt, there would be a confrontation between the aunt and the detective and the brother, right? That could be pretty interesting. So what would that look like? What could some of the things that could happen that could create that conflict and create that final uh, uh, element that we're going to see in the climax. Because once we know that, then we can start to leave clues, and we can start to talk about stuff like that. So, okay, we don't have a motive yet. Well, oh, good. So, what's a good motive? Let's go back to our timeline again. Okay, and let's go back to the beginning a little bit and let's talk about motives. So, what are some possible motives? Let's talk about what some motives might be. Actually, I'm just going to change these scene cards to be motives instead. Okay, so somebody shoot me some different motives that things could be, right? There's some common ones. We could put some of those up there because we could put up jealousy, maybe, revenge. But we need to kind of define what that looks like. What are some other potential motives that we could throw up in there for a motive? Any ideas at all? This is a family thing, so there's all kinds of stuff that could happen. Money, inheritance money. That's number one with family, isn't it? Money. So we can call this money inheritance. Okay. Family business, love of a previous victim. Oh, that's kind of crazy. Uh, but that's, yeah, family business is kind of like inheritance, but similar. Love is another good one, though. Let me see here. Change that. Well, we haven't really introduced a love interest. We could, but we've introduced primarily family drama. And oh, power, feeling unseen, a secret, secret. I'm going to put power here. And kind of feeling seen is it's usually a part of jealousy. Jealousy, attention, feeling seen. Okay, cool. All right, let's vote on what our motive should be. Same thing, using the scene card numbers. So number 2 is jealousy, feeling seen, attention. Number 3 is revenge. Number 4 is money or an inheritance. Number 5 is family business, power. Number 6 is love. And number 7 is some kind of secret. So let's vote between those. So number 5, family business, power. We have a vote, money inheritance. Money inheritance is really common. That's pretty easy. Established as a real member of the family. Yeah, so that would be kind of that jealousy thing. Number 7, secret. Secrets are always good because that adds an easy way to add mystery to things, right? Seems to be pretty close between 4 and 7. 5 and 7, family business and a secret. That's interesting. 3 and 5 could be combined. That is true. 3 and 5 could be combined. That would make for an interesting story. All right, so we've got a lot of votes for 7, and I know we're rushing through these votes sometimes, so some of you probably want your vote to be the um, highest one, but we're for the sake of this, we're gonna rush through, okay? And we're gonna add notes. Okay, so number 7 is a secret. So what is the secret? Because that's going to tell us how the detective solves it and how he determines what the murder is. So what are some things that our character could be keeping secret? Oh yeah, if DNA testing was the secret, so it could be, let's go here and look at that it could be DNA testing. In fact, let's go back and vote again for the secret. So we're going to come up here and say DNA part of the family. Okay, what's another type of secret that we could have, that he could have? Neighbor they killed years ago. Let's see here. The killer brother is one who somehow got rid of his brother. Ooh, that is another. So we could do kind of the secret is a brother on kind of a Cain and Abel killing thing. That is one of the things we could do for sure. All right. Other type of secrets that could be hidden. Neighbor they killed years ago. The reason the marriage broke up. That is interesting as well. So let's look at those. We'll just say someone they killed neighbor. Because if the victim is a serial killer, that could easily be one of the secrets that somebody knows and is trying to hide. Now his brother was young, the killer brother somehow got rid of him. The wealth doesn't belong to the family. Ooh, so we'll just call that, maybe we'll call that fake wealth. The wealth is a scam. How about that? Okay. Couple other secrets. Unknown twin. Not you're not my father. That is interesting. Another way, hiding he stole family investments. So stealing money could be a secret. And I feel like the father thing could go underneath the DNA. Unsure of father. So that's interesting. Okay, all right. So we're going to delete this one really quick. We decided it was going to be a secret. So we've got a few secrets to choose from here between scenes 2 to 6. So number 2 is DNA, which means maybe unsure of his father, part of the family. Number 3 is the brother on brother killing. The brother killed the other brother at some point. And so that's the secret that's there. Someone the person killed, maybe the neighbor or someone that the family knows. The family's wealth is not fake or it's not really theirs, or the person was stealing money. So number 6 is stealing money. Number 5 is fake wealth. Number 4 is someone they killed, perhaps a neighbor. Number 3 is brother on brother killing. And number 2 is DNA. They're not part of the family or they have a different one. Okay, let's vote on those. Ooh, I like some of these ideas too. Anton brother, that's an interesting. I like that one as well. I like the fake wealth is looks like it's in the lead at the moment, followed by the DNA, the family thing. And number 5 and number 6 could be, because they're both involving money, that could be combined. Ooh, that's another interesting idea. Um, about the aunt and the brother knew the other brother was a serial killer, didn't know that the wrong one died. That would be kind of creepy. That's kind of a cool idea. And there's some of these that we can combine. That is a great idea, Connor. That's a pretty cool thing. That's a pretty good secret. All right. Any votes for, so let's put this one up. Any other votes for Connor, since that was not on the list? The aunt and brother knew the older brother was a serial killer. What do you guys think of that one? I'm really liking that idea. That's a pretty awesome secret. Okay. We're going to roll with Connor's idea just because I like it. And everybody else seems to like it as well. So basically, they knew. We're going to come down here and we're going to say that they knew that he was a serial killer. So the climax is going to be detective finds out what they knew. Actually, that's not going to be the climax, though. This is going to be where he weighs the evidence and determines what actually happened. Okay. So we're going to build towards the resolution of the investigation because the detective is going to find out that they knew. Now, what that means is at this point, he probably already knows that the victim was a serial killer. He probably found that out at some point earlier in the story. Now, that's probably somewhere around here, around the beginning of Act 3, is where suddenly we find some hidden motives revealed. This is probably where the detective discovers there is a secret. Now, let's talk about some ways that he could discover that there's a secret. How would he find out? How would he find out that there was a secret? How would he find out that they knew something about the other brother? Now, at this point, that's all the secret would be, is he would find out that they knew something about the other brother. Now, what we can do for this, you see, as we're starting to put things together, we're coming up with new ideas. But we can go back up to these original ideas up here and find out, is there a way that someone could have found this out? Because this is an interesting thing. Perhaps there was evidence of violence at the house, and that's how the detective found out what they knew. There was some kind of weird evidence. What do you guys think? Is that a potential idea? That's one of our old ideas, but we can pull that forward maybe. The aunt finds the wrong guy died, so he kills her. Oh, that's this. You guys have come up with some great ideas. Family killed the supposedly serial killer brother to prevent family scandal, but they handled it sloppily. Okay, so that's going to leave clues, right? So by this point, the detective is going to find out that they knew something, but also, according to that, he's going to reveal the results, and this is where he determines one in the family killed the brother, right? You guys, this is great ideas, right? And this is done because the killing was sloppy and they left evidence. Cool, huh? We're coming up with a pretty decent plot, right? Okay, the killer took trophies. Now that is another way that if we go back to how he discovered stuff, the evidence of violence, instead we say the evidence of trophies. The detective discovers what the killer took. Now, what this can do is this creates a really cool clue that we can drop back here somewhere. Anybody have an idea what that might be? Because the one thing we haven't talked completely about is the method of killing, right? So who's the witness again? Oh, we haven't identified the witness. Let's go into our characters and identify the witness. And we'll say that Alfred, we haven't categorized him yet. He is, we're going to call him supporting. This is the, whoops, this is the witness. Okay, so we've got a witness, but we've also got a method of killing. So let's go into our notes. We'll come up with our method of killing. Now what we decided about the secret is that the secret is he was a serial killer and wanted to avoid scandal. Okay, boom, we got that. Okay, the method of killing. Now this could be a very, very neat clue because there could be, and bear with me here, there could be a killer that's been on the loose that our detective has been trying to figure out who it is. It's a serial killer. And they take a trophy from the serial killer the same as the serial killer took from his victims. What do you think of that? That'd be kind of a cool idea. So when we go back here to where we disclose the mystery and the killing happened, okay, the evidence steals identity to solve the crime. He finds a briefcase full of money. The murdered person is a serial killer, but we're going to add here the serial killer is killed in the same way that he killed victims. Okay, now anybody have an idea for the trophies he might have taken? Strangulation, trophy is an ear. That's interesting. Trophy's been put in dead innocent brother's house, but they don't make sense for the dead brother. That's an interesting idea too. Because trophy can be something personal rather than monetary value. Yeah, that's one of those things that like sometimes a killer will take just an earring or something like that that doesn't make any sense. It's a cheap earring and they only take one, something like that. Okay. Witness could be a sidekick of the car thief. Yeah, I think that one that adds a different element and that we don't want to go too far down. Strangulation trophy is an ear. That's interesting. A long lock of hair, that a ring or a long lock of hair. That is an interesting method as well. That's an interesting trophy. The finger of the ring finger. Oh, yeah, that's another interesting one. A lock of hair. So we've got a lot of lock of hair and fingers, which you guys are kind of sick, I think. But anyway, we're going to go with it anyway. Okay, so we're going to say that we're going to just add this in the trope in this spot so that we know what it is a lock of hair or is, well, actually what we're going to do is we're going to say it's a finger because that's going to be obvious when we get to the scene of the crime. With just a lock of hair, it might not be easy to identify that that's missing. We're going to do that right away. Okay, so now let's come over here and talk about where we broaden the investigation. This is where detective suspects family, but there's a lot of them. There are a bunch of relatives. Okay, so we've got a big pool of suspects. We haven't added everything in there yet that we're going to add in, but there's a big pool of suspects. Okay, now, oops, I put these all on the subplot. Those don't belong in the subplot. They belong up here. Okay. Now, if we are going to have a subplot, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so let's get down to the climax of what happens here. So what's going to happen that's going to bring all of this to a head? So who hired the detective? That's an interesting one. Like somebody said, you sick puppies. Yes, that is true. All right. Trophy could be a family crest, tie tack, but then it'd have to be all family members. So, yeah, because that's not the same thing he would take from the other ones. Okay. Who hired the detective? Now we could introduce a new character, perhaps, or the mother hired the detective. That's actually a great idea. So let's go back into our plot and let's resolve that back here. Let's see. Some of these don't fit 100% at the moment, but we'll change that in a minute. Mother hired the detective. Okay, let's go with that. And we'll move some things around, change some things up as we finalize this a little bit, so our plot is a little cleaner. Okay, so what could bring things to the head? Nope, the aunt is one of the killers, not the mother, the aunt. Okay. Think anyone hired the detective? He was drunk, found the body, and sobered up, started to investigate on his own. Okay, so we could do that as well. So we could eliminate that. Grandfather hadn't spoken in years till he called the detective. You know what? Let's do this instead. So you guys are coming up with great ideas here. So let's move this further down and have he steals his identity to solve the crime. When he suspects it's the family is when we'll say that the grandfather, who we haven't identified yet, reaches out to the detective. And we'll just say he calls with suspicion. Okay, let's do that. We'll add that in, then that makes the rest of our plot still make a little bit more sense. Okay, everybody good with that? All right. Now, and I like that, Charlotte, that let's add that, let's move that further down. That is a great idea. Okay, all right, so now let's, okay, detective not assuming the brother's ID. Well, that's one thing that we talked about, but we didn't finalize that, right? So is the detective assuming the brother's ID? Let's say instead, let's delete that one, okay? Because that doesn't really fit anymore. We've changed our plot a little bit. Now, maybe this briefcase full of money, this becomes part of the subplot, maybe, okay? The fact that when he goes to the person's home, so let's see, he doesn't find the car. He does find a car, but he investigates the body instead. Okay, so that way now our plot starts to make a lot more sense. Okay, so we're kind of starting to pull it together. There you go. Because if he assumes the dead person's ID, then that's different. That's a different story. And we've kind of changed our story. You notice as we've come along, we've added more ideas. Our story has actually changed. It's actually grown into something a little bit different than what we started with, right? Now, at first, it was a drunk that finds a body and assumes an identity. Now it's a drunk detective who finds the body and works to solve the crime. Okay. So some of the subplot things that could happen here is he discovers a briefcase full of money. Well, what does he do with that money? Now, if we look some more at the sleuth's background, maybe we look at why is he a drunk? And what we would do with this in the subplot is we would use this to make the case more personal. Okay, so let's say maybe he finds that maybe he lost part of a family business or inheritance to his brother, or his brother was also a killer. Okay? Right? So we've come up with some ideas, right, of what could be happening here. The car was retorted stolen by Victoria. Now, what if he finds a bag of money, doesn't report that to the family? The killers know the money is missing, so he's in danger. That's actually good because that adds something to the climax, right? Now, I like how Charlene says this because we're going to cover this in a minute. When we do this by ourselves, we won't have 70 people to help us come up with brilliant twists. No, but you can certainly meet with your critique group or your group and have them help you. It's a fun time to sit down with somebody and brainstorm their plot, even if there's only just a few of you. But anyway, all right. So let's go back to here. Let's talk about this. He finds a bag of money, doesn't report that to the family. The killers know the money is missing, so he's in danger. That is awesome, right? Because what happens here, before we get to the resolution of the climax, which we're going to get to in a minute, the subplot resolution happens. So the brother or aunt confronts him about the missing money because they think he has it. What this does is on our main timeline, this solidifies the fact that they are the guilty ones. So this confirms it for both the reader and the detective. Now, where he reviews the case, this is where the detective is going to eliminate the last few suspects. So at this point, he probably eliminate. My goodness, can't spell. Okay, he's going to eliminate the last few suspects. So he's going to narrow the pool to just the brother and aunt and aunt. Now, the way he's going to do this and the way you're going to determine what clues to leave is he's going to do this by means they had the ability to do the crime, motive, they had the reason to do the crime, which we already talked about, and opportunity. Now, probably only one of them did it and they planned it together. So probably the other brother is the one that did that. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody when we narrow that down just before we get to the climax? Okay? Another subplot possibility, Victoria, Casper's young wife, is aware of the brother being a serial killer, but it excites her and she's involved with him, maybe thinks she's in love. That would be another subplot as well. You could have a dual subplot going on. You could have the detective subplot, and you could have Victoria and the killer being in love. That would be a really interesting subplot. That would bring us down to a super interesting climax, right? Now, we would probably introduce that somewhere in here, but we wouldn't reveal Victoria's identity. So what we could do here is we could add a plot line for clues, which is what I often do with mysteries. And we may not have time to add all of them that we need here, but we can do something like this, that we introduce a lover to the deceased, but we don't see her identity. And we could do that at almost any point along the clues timeline. We could even move that back here. Okay, so we could introduce the person as kind of a subplot here, or maybe when he even discovers the body. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? And I'm going to turn this green because I want my clues subplot to be green. Okay, so that's where I start to add in clues that we could drop along the way. Now, we won't have time in a session like this to add all the clues, but you can go in and start adding those back in along the way. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? And no, and the deceased, we would say in this case, what we're saying, I believe, is the deceased is the serial killer. The alive brother and the aunt knew he was a serial killer, and the reason they killed him was to hide it so they could avoid family shame. Okay, which makes them killers too, which I mean, I don't know if that makes them any better, right? Doesn't necessarily make them any better people. Okay. So now we're almost to the point we come down and we have a climax, so we have the final confrontation. So this is the final confrontation. And this is where the sister and uncle, or the sister and uncle, brother and aunt confront the detective, and he calls them out on the murder. Now, this, depending on the type of mystery, this could be a violent or a non-violent confrontation, right? And this would be up to you when you get to the end of your story, right? Do you want this to be a violent thing where the aunt and the son come after him? Oh, and let me address this really quick. The Libro was a serial killer and was the one the family meant to get rid of, but they killed the wrong one. We actually could do that as well. I think, okay, so everybody thought that except for me. That's weird. Okay, that's fine. We could actually do that they killed the wrong brother. Um, although that when we talk about the trophy clue, that kind of changes that as well, but we could change that. Okay, so we could change that. So let's go back and change that. Let's make that work. Okay, this is you guys' story. So, evidence of trophies. And let's say this is, and finds some at the Live Brothers house. Okay, and let's go clear this up under characters as well. Drunk enter story. Takes ID to solve crime. Suspect. Casper. Killer. Deceased brothers. Paternal twin. And he is the serial killer. Okay. So we can change that up a little bit. We'll go back to our timeline and make sure that everything lines up with that. And this is one of the things, like if you plot something really fast like this, you're going to go back and clean it up when you're done, right? And I like this. Finds the trophies in the dead brother's apartment, but he can tell they've been placed there. That is actually a great idea as well. So that's a great turn of the find some, and maybe you find some at the Live Brothers house that they didn't place at the deceased's house. So somewhere along the line in this clues, this is where finds trophies at the dead guy's house. Oops. And we can move those things around too. Okay. Could leave the trophy in the Live brother. Claims he did it to make it look like his twin was a victim of the serial killer, so police wouldn't think he was the actual serial killer. And that could be a great final clue as well. So yeah, although you're right about reasonable doubt. Okay. And there's going to be some reasonable doubt along the way. Like here, there is going to be some doubt in the detective, no matter what clues we've added up. And this is where he gets the final clue confirmation of his story. And then this, in the final confrontation, this is where we resolve all the clues. Okay. Everybody see where that's going? Okay. So the serial killer has set up his dead brother to look like the serial killer. Yep, that's true. Finds trophy for body found. He might find other trophies from other kills. Yep. So those are all ways that we can drop clues along the way. Okay. Is everybody kind of good with that? We've got a pretty good story. Let's go back and see if we can clean it up a little bit, because we got like 15 minutes left till we have our final plot. We're not going to call this a final plot. So let's show let's change this a little bit to show the detective getting drunk. Now that we've changed that, finds a car, investigates the body, goes to the deceased person's home. Okay. So that doesn't recognize the ID until sober, doesn't realize who the suspect is, and we'll just say discovers this when sober. Now, as we go through these chapters, we can tag our characters and places, so we can start to add settings. So if we say, so we can add places like the family home, cease apartment. Oops. Okay, and we can start to tag those in the timeline. So when he goes down to the deceased home, we can do that, deceased apartment. And then when he finds out who the suspect is, maybe that happens at the family home when he's notifying the family. Okay, so we can start to add settings here. You can see this we just really added here as a note. It's perfectly okay to add those into your story, but eventually we'll have to put that back where it kind of belongs. And this is going to be where he finds the body. He's going to find out that the finger is missing. Okay. So we don't know it's a trophy yet, but the finger, he does find out that the finger is missing, just like other victims. This is going to be a thing where he solves the serial killer crime by solving this crime as well. Okay. So we've got that. The murdered person is a serial killer. The detective suspects the family. That still works. This part still works. Why he's a drunk. Okay. Discovers there's a secret. Discovered somebody in the family killed the brother. Eliminates the last few suspects. Comes down to the mystery. Okay, so do we have a complete story? Do we have any elements that are missing? And Charlotte is pretty good at this. You've got some great ideas. Any other elements that are missing from this story? Anything that we don't have? I mean, we could add some clues. We could go through and add those. Um, but we don't really necessarily, we're going to do those as we go through and plan the scenes in more detail. But we have a rough outline, right? We have some characters, we have some settings. Do we have anything that we've missed? We've got kind of our motivation. We've got some of our conflict that happens, some of that because the detective is a drunk, right? So he's going to have problems along the way. And that's going to create some tension with the family. So, what's the final outcome of the climax? That is a really good question. What is the final confrontation, the outcome of the climax? So, the brother and aunt confront the detective and he calls them out on murder. Is this a violent confrontation or a non-violent confrontation? No one knows the blind grandfather saw everything. Maybe he's a witness that saw everything. Um, the final outcome of the climax, the friction I like Connor's comment here, the friction for the detective and the conflict is in his personal life. Run with the police, warn him off because of pressure from the aunt. There's all kinds of things we can add to our subplot as well, including why our detective is drinking, including what that conflict that he has with police. So that's actually a great idea, Connor. We could come in here and just add, we could add some try-fails along the way. He finds out the person is a serial killer. So maybe this is where he gets warned off by police. They're like, you're a private detective. You're a PI. We will handle this. Okay. Something like that. That's another point of conflict, and that's a very good thing to add. We can add a lot of that conflict into the subplot. Okay. Serial killer takes the ant detective hostage as next victim because they've discovered the secret. That is an interesting thing. Now what we had was the ant was in on it, but they could take, in this case, detective taken hostage and must escape. And they're about to kill when they are about to kill him. So that means we have to come up with a clever plan for him to escape, which that may be part of your things along the way. But Anne thinks the dead brother was the serial killer. Oh, that could be too, that she was in on it, but she thinks he was the serial killer. Ah, I see. Oh, and that's a good one too. And maybe in this case, and this would be an interesting twist based on that, detective is acting drunk, but is actually sober, and that is how he overcomes it, because they assume he's weaker than he is. That's actually an awesome idea. And mirroring that first image is a fantastic idea. It shows growth of the character. It shows us what is happening in the story. And I like that the ant now turns because the ant believes ant ant oh good grief believed the deceased was the serial killer and turns on the live brother. So now the detective and the ant overcome. That is actually a very cool idea. Fantastic. So she's involved with the killer brother without realizing he's a killer. That is a great final twist. We've come up with a great twist with this plot, right? We've got great twists. We've got clues. We've got some compelling characters. How many people want to read this? How many of you want to write it? How many of you would like to write that? I mean, this seems like a fun one, right? How many people want to just write this wants to be your next book? I mean, you got a whole plot here, and I bet you if 4 of you wrote it, it would all come out different. It would come out different for each one of you. Yeah, Connor's like, I'm in. You had some great ideas. Write and read. Fantastic. You want to read it. See, we created a plot that's good. It has conflict, it has great characters. It's something that you want to read, that you want to see. I mean, this is a really fun way to do it, right? Let's all write it. I like that, Charlotte. Everybody write it and then turn in your drafts, and we'll see how differently you write the stories. We can reconvene in 3 months. That's a great idea. Everybody go write this. We'll be back in 90 days. But we're gonna do these like once a month. One time every month, we're gonna have some plot on the spot, stuff like this, where we're just gonna have fun creating a plot, right? Definitely inspired with my cozy. That is fantastic. Because that's what this is meant to do, is inspire you with ways to do this. Again, you're not going to have 70 other people to talk with and go through stuff, but you can have 5 in your critique group. I mean, yeah, I like that. Write my version and read everyone else's from Tim and Linda. I like that. Write my version. I'm going to read everybody else's just to see how it turns out. I mean, isn't that a great idea? That is a fantastic idea. Okay. What happened to the assumption of the deceased person's identity? We eliminated that, Carol, because it didn't make sense. With as we moved along in our plot, that didn't make sense anymore. So we eliminated that. There's ways you could bring it back. So the beauty of this thing is like this is a plot we devised in 90 minutes, but it's not final, right? There's nothing set in stone. We didn't carve any tablets or anything. So you can move this around. You can be very, very flexible in what you're going to do. Um, are you going to do an inspirational romance? There are going to be some months where we will have a theme for plot on the spot. That'll be certain genres or certain themes, and we'll ask you to come with those ideas. And I like this. You know, do once a month. I'm a novice writer. So helpful me to feel not to feel alone and hear how brilliant everybody else is. You're going to be surprised, D. You're going to come up with some fantastic ideas on your own. Oh, thanks, you guys. That once a month, that would be a lot of fun. Um, but yes, all right. Any other questions? What we're going to do right now is we're going to move to key takeaways and Q&A. So, what did you guys take away from this? What did you learn? And Charlotte, we'll see what we can do about sharing the plotter file. Let me see what we can do about that. That's a possibility. Let me check on that and see how we can a good method for us to do that. Because then you guys could play with it and do whatever you want with it. You can do your own file. What are some things that you guys learned along the way? Any ideas that you picked up? Any things that changed? Linda plans to start using Plotter more. That's awesome. I love to be able to just show you guys that, like, so this was not a great demo. Like, if you don't know how to use some of these things in Plotter, this is new. Um, and as a brainstorming tool, not just an organizer. You can organize after you're brainstorming. Oh, wow. I really like that, Connor. And now I have a clue how to use the software after owning it for years. All right, this is awesome. Plotter is super flexible. Um, Could throw information up and see what sticks. Oh, don't be strict about doing it, man. I like to have fun. And part of the fun is just throwing ideas and see what sticks in your brain. And you can do this as groups. It's really fun. So love it. That is awesome. How to really flesh out the general idea, but leave it open to some seat of the pants rising writing. Yeah, you notice we haven't like this is not a super rigid plot. We don't have 40 scenes and we haven't outlined each one individually. We've left a lot of room for you to just play, right? And so if all of you took this home and wrote it, you would come back with something each of you would come back with something completely different, you know. And I like this organization and brainstorming plots. That is really fun. Um, and it is really fun to jump around and brainstorm. You never know what you're going to come up with, right? And I like this that you can come up with a good idea and come back to review it and realize you can quickly come up with a better idea or new ideas. I know this, Carol. This is, yes, we have a replay and you can rewatch this as many times as you want because this is a little overwhelming. Like I was showing you a lot of features in Plotter I wasn't demoing them. I was just throwing them up there. So you can slow it down and see, oh, how did he do that? Because if we stop to demo it each time in this, we won't build a plot in 90 minutes, right? But you guys can rewatch and see how it actually works. So that's fantastic. Add a template after you start brainstorming. Yep, I do the exact same thing. And this is very much the way that I will do plots. It's really fun and super interesting. Um, and I like this is the best demo I've ever seen use Plotter. I'm so tired of the three little pigs. Yeah, we do use that one a lot. Uh, More fun than you expected. Yeah, the whole idea of plotting is to have fun, write faster and have more fun. Um, But yeah, and I like this too, the flexibility. Don't use it linearly, use it whatever way you want. You notice at one point we skipped all the way to the end and then came back. That's because we're writing a mystery, so we need to know some things before we can build the rest of the story. So I'm excited by that. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. So fantastic. This is really fun. All right. Any other questions that you guys have? Um, well, there'll be a replayed link that you'll have access to. That you guys will have access to, and you can watch it again, and we'll see what we can do about I'm not sure how we would get the file to you, but we will see what we can do about that. Okay, so I'll get the technical team. I'm the writer team. The technical team is different than me. So they can make things happen, and they know how to do things, right? So, um, you were so good. It's hard to ask questions. I'm not that good. I'm sure you have I'm sure I left things open to questions. This was just really fun to hang out with you guys and brainstorm a plot. It's a blast. Okay. It was just a blast. I love it. You guys were a fantastic group, and you came up with some great ideas. You notice the conflict and all the fun stuff we have in this plot already. Just amazing. So here's what I am going to tell you to do. Um, and I'm still here for questions if you have them. But if you subscribe to the Plottr channel, then you will know when we're going to have our next YouTube live event. And probably this plot on the spot things we will do like via this YouTube live type feature. Okay. And so we'll do this often. If you subscribe to our channel, you also will see some other great videos that we have coming out, but you won't ever miss one of these because YouTube will notify you. You'll get emails about them, all that kind of stuff too. But subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll ensure that every time we do one of these things, it's going to pop up on your notifications, and you can come and join us, or you can rewatch it later. In fact, you can rewatch this on YouTube. I think anytime. I think it's going to be available so you can watch it pretty much anytime. Um, so we'll just have these probably in a playlist or a series or something like that, and you can watch them. Okay. So then when you see ones that are related to your genre, things like that, you can pop on and watch them. So thank you all. I appreciate all the thanks and all the comments. You guys were a great audience, and I appreciated all your participation and throwing the ideas in the chat. I appreciated some of you keeping track of the ideas and keeping me on track. Because it was really fun, and we ended up with a really, really neat plot. It was so much of a blast. All right. If there are no more questions, let's see. I'll stick around for a few more minutes if there's any questions. If not, we'll go ahead and end the live video, and we'll plan to see you guys next month sometime, and we'll plot something else entirely. We might have a theme, we might not. We might surprise you with that. Is there a current? Okay. Somebody asked me if there's a character arc development webinar in the works. There are lots of webinars in the works, and character arc and character development is high on our list. So yes, stay tuned. We'll be doing a whole bunch of workshops and webinars and things this year, and character development is definitely high on our list. So for sure, Sage. Thanks for joining us, by the way. I appreciate it. You guys were amazing. Thanks, Carol. You were really fun. You guys were all really fun. All right. Well, with that, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you joining us. You can continue to comment over on YouTube. You'll be able to rewatch this soon, I believe. There will be a link, and then we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you hit that notifications button, you won't miss any of these when we do that. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.